Two ways to boost your profits. You either add more revenue at the top or cut your expenses. Let's talk about it. Welcome to Newsletter Guru TV, your show with a boatload of smart marketing and business building advice and a little fun along the way.
This episode of Newsletter Guru TV is brought to you by Mars Training Program. 9 stealth strategies guaranteed to rapidly increase your repeat and referral business, even in a recession.
Hey everybody, Jim Palmer, the Newsletter Guru, coming to you from Marsh Creek Lake. It's a nice day. It's a little bit chilly, but it's still a nice day out at Marsh Creek Lake. Toby here is taking a rest. We just had one heck of a long walk. So anyway, I was talking with somebody about a week ago. They're getting ready to put on a live event. He was asking me different ways and strategies that I knew of on how to make more money from your live event. And one of the things we talked about was sponsorships. And by the way, let me give a shout out to my buddy Charlie McDermott, who is the head marketing dude at the Ben Philly Marketing Group. Go Ben Philly! Anyway, I got Charlie's latest newsletter, and he had some sponsorships at the bottom. So sponsorships is really a key strategy that you can use, again, to either add money or to cut your costs, which in the end is going to make you money on the bottom line. So, you know, last summer I did an interview with Ron Seaver. Ron is like the premier go-to guy to teach you all about how to use sponsorships to make more money, to underwrite the cost of your events, and to make money in general. So here, what I want to do is show you a couple of minutes of my interview with Ron. I think you're really going to like it. Check it out. So anyway, I'm sitting here with Ron Seaver from Seaver Marketing. Ron is like the premier go-to guy for how to use sponsorships to lower the cost of your live events or to actually generate some incredible revenue. Ron, thanks for being my guest on Newsletter Guru TV.
Delighted to be here.
It's actually quite hot. It's actually quite bright. I think Ron and I's eyes are both looking pretty thin right now. But you know what? It's better here than being inside. Is that true or what?
Yes, I think it's an icebox.
Yeah. So, you know what, folks? Talk about sponsorship. If you've seen NASCAR, there's not even a square inch of anything without a decal on it. That's one example of sponsorships. But for entrepreneurs and small business owners, especially those who put on live events and big meetings and things, there's a way to use sponsorships to kind of at least lower the cost of them or to bring in some serious dollars. Now, Ron, most of the people who watch this TV show are entrepreneurs and small business owners, not some of the big Fortune 50 companies that you normally work with. So what kind of tips might you have?
You know, really the first tip I would say is just realizing that it's out there. I've spent most of my career working in the world of sports, and of course anybody who's familiar with sports knows that we don't do anything that's not sponsored.
Yeah.
And the reality is the same logic that makes it work in sports makes it work with a lot of our own businesses. We have the same thing that, say, the Dallas Cowboys have. We may not have 70,000 people sitting there on a Sunday, but a lot of us have got some really loyal, large herds, groups that follow us, that listen to what we do, that buy in, they're members, they're readers, and you're with them every month all along the way, which in many ways makes them a more valuable resource to sponsors than just simply a one-off, one game, one event type of sponsorship deal. So I would say the first thing to do is realize that there's a lot of very serious money out there, and this stuff is actually tracked. It's over $18 billion is invested every year just here in the States by companies that are underwriting events, programs, properties, teams, and businesses just like yours and mine.
You know, I just shared with Ron, I saw him come in about a half hour ago, come into the event. And Ron and I are both in the Information Marketing Association, and Bill Glazer and Robert Scrobe interviewed Ron probably about a month ago, but we just got the CD. One of my coaching members runs a local meeting, you know, maybe gets 50 people out. I was listening to your CD, Ron, as I'm working on my third book right now. So I'm working on my book, listening to the CD, and my ears started perking up, and I actually lost total concentration on my book. But the thing is, and I jumped on the phone with my coaching client and said, you got to think bigger, because the strategies that Ron teaches, well, I'm going to let you talk about this, but it's not so much like, oh, hey, we'll bring the pastries. You know, there's a way for banks, and I think what you said on the interview, Ron, is that the asset that they have is they want to have access to the people that are in your herd, so to speak, or your customer base. Can you talk a little bit about
Jim,
that?
That's really all you're selling. We try to make sponsorship a whole lot more complicated than it really is. And when you boil it all down, sponsorship is just about giving other outside companies access to your audience.
Okay.
And it's really nothing more sophisticated than that. And the more you can do to help them not only get their name out there, but their message out there. And you present this to them as a business transaction, whereas most of us outside of the world of sports, we tend to, when we think of sponsorship at all, we tend to just simply think of donation. Like, wow, it'd be really great if they'd support my business with pastries or something like that. But there's some tremendous dollars that's to be had on the other side, even if you've only got a group of 50 people. When you do the math and you figure out what those 50 people are spending in a given category, all of a sudden you wield some real power, and you probably never even realized you did.
And here's the thing, you know, I'm always talking about the power of zero, the power of thinking big. Don't think about, suppose you have a group, maybe you have 50 people coming. Don't think about, oh, I can't approach like Bank of America or anything, about 50 people. It's the fact that you have a group of people that the bank would like to have access to. So it's not say like, oh, I can't possibly charge 30. That was one of the huge eye-openers for me on that CD, is that they want to have access, and that's worth a lot of money. You gave an example right before we went on camera here about printers.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that real quick?
Absolutely. You know, but before I do, Jim, let me just make one thing perfectly clear. These are companies that aren't doing you a favor, and you got to get that out of your head.
That's the mindset shift right there.
That is the shift right there. They're not doing you a favor. This is a business transaction for them, and they realize that you have something that they very desperately need. You just don't know it.
Yeah.
And it's worth big money to them, because if they don't promote their products, if they don't advertise, if they don't get their products into your people's hands, they're out of business. Their brand share, and certainly with the escalating costs and the diversity of advertising, traditional advertising, it's not as easy it was when I was a kid and there were only 3 television networks.
Yeah.
Now there's 525 television networks. So what do you buy? And how much of it do you buy? And do you have that kind of money to be able to buy it? But meanwhile, every month, people are getting issues of your publication, or they're going to a meeting, or they're being communicated with some way online through e-zines or something, and you're able to not only get them in front of that right crowd, but you come back month after month, time after time. So the question that you asked was, I know I get this a lot. Somebody will come up and say, well, I've only got 50 members in my group. I mean, that's really not worth anything, is it? And my answer is, you might be surprised. I mean, because the reason is, if you have a group, like one of the groups that I belong to, it's very small, we do a lot of marketing. We put out newsletters every month. I mean, that's what we teach everybody. Put out a newsletter every month. Not only get a herd, but you got to build a fence around them. Mm-hmm. So you want to communicate with them. You want to get them postcards. You also want to communicate with them electronically, but you also are printing brochures, pamphlets, white reports, things of that nature that you're putting out there. So as I explained to this gentleman that was telling me the story that I was sharing with you, he said, well, he thought he only had 50 people. I said, do the math. By his own prediction, he estimated that his members probably spend about $20,000 a year.
Collectively.
Which isn't a lot of money. I mean, it's less than $2,000 a month. And again, we spend more on that just every month on our newsletter. So if you just said each one did $20,000 a year, and you did the math times 50 members, now when you reach out to a printer, you don't go in the door and say, hey, I've got 50 members in my group. You go in the door and say, hey, my group does over $1 million of renewable printing every year. Do you want to talk to them?
Yeah. So listen, here's really the big idea. I mean, we obviously just heard some really great advice from Ron on sponsorships, but the whole thing is you gotta take the blinders off. All right, you gotta stop looking through tunnel vision, and you really got to expand your thinking. And quite frankly, as I'm always telling you, go out to live events, hook up with some good people, some good smart people, and get in a good exchange of ideas. Hey, did I tell you Ron knew what he was talking about? Ron Seaver is the man when it comes to sponsorships and making money with sponsors. Isn't that right, Toby? Toby, isn't Ron? You put your head down. There's Toby down there. All right, so check out Ron's material. He can teach you a whole lot more about sponsorships. If you've appreciated what I've shared with you today about how to boost your revenue, cut your expenses at live events, and all ways, shape, and form how to make more money, then I'd appreciate it very much if you would share this information. It's very easy to do, whether you're watching it on Facebook or on Newsletter Guru TV. Go ahead and click the share button. That'll give you an opportunity to share it on Facebook, on your timeline, make a comment. If you're watching on Newsletter Guru TV, when you click the share button, that's going to bring up Isn't that right, buddy? That's going to bring up the opportunity to post it to Twitter or Facebook and make a comment. At any place you're going to put it, please make a comment to me. I always love hearing from you. Isn't that right, buddy? Don't we love hearing from people that watch Newsletter Guru TV? Yes, we do. All right, folks. Hey, before the day's out, look for ways that you can add more value to what it is that you're doing for your customers, your clients, your patients. When you add more value, followed up and wrapped up with world-class service, your customers, clients, and patients will stay longer. And when they stay longer, they end up spending more money, and that's always a good thing. Isn't that right, Topster? Isn't that a good thing when they stay longer? Yes, it is, buddy. Do you like doing videos, or do you feel like a piece of prop? Do you feel like a prop? I don't know. All right, and before the day's out, hey, go do something nice for somebody, some random act of kindness. We just think if we can just be a little bit nicer to each other, the world's going to be a nicer place, all right? Until next episode, this is Jim Palmer, your host of Newsletter Guru TV, and I am committed to helping you build a more profitable business faster, and I will see you on the next episode. You take care.